Welcome to Scott Fox After 9. Wrapping up what I think was a pretty good week. We covered a lot of ground here in the podcast. And if you missed any of them, this weekend, I think is a great time to go back and listen because I talked a lot about speed enforcement cameras. Yesterday, I tried to talk a little bit about the Jimmy Kimmel situation, and that just went completely stupid yesterday. And I'm going to explain why in just a sec. First off, let me bring in the special guest every Friday, the great Anna Almeida. How are you, Anna?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. There's a couple things I want to get to before we do the listener DMs, and Jimmy Kimmel is at the top of my list. So if you don't mind, I want to circle back on something I talked about yesterday.
Oh, please. And I have to mention that there are some DMs about that.
Okay, so maybe I will get to some audio when we talk about Jimmy Kimmel in the listener DMs. I just want to say that yesterday the coverage was completely preposterous. Yesterday, there was a lot of things going on between the president. He made a lot of remarks yesterday coming back from the UK. We've got the prime minister down in Mexico screwing around. We've got all kinds of things going on. And the vast majority of the newscast last night was dedicated to Jimmy Kimmel. One of the things that I tried to explain in yesterday's episode is how broadcasting works. And there's a big difference between the digital world, where this podcast lives, and broadcasting. Broadcasting is supposed to be an inclusive thing. When you turn on a radio station, when you turn on a television station, you're supposed to have a reasonable suspicion that you're not going to be offended by the first thing you see. And frankly, there's rules and there's unwritten rules, but either way, us broadcasters certainly understand where the line is. And if you don't, you're not going to be on the air for very long. And that's what happened to Jimmy Kimmel. He made an inappropriate comment in a broadcast format, and ABC used that as an excuse to get rid of him. I suspect they wanted to get rid of him for a while because he's a pain in the ass for them. He creates a lot of controversy. He's obviously someone firmly on the left. In fact, Jimmy Kimmel, in the very left-leaning circles, is a rock star. I consider him a recruiter of sorts. Jimmy Kimmel ruined Howard Stern and several other celebrities, and Jimmy Kimmel is unapologetically left. And he shows it on his show every night. That's part of the reason that the ratings aren't very good. You know, when you broadcast, you're supposed to try and reach a maximum audience and be as inclusive as possible. And that's just something not happening on Jimmy's show, which is owned by ABC, which is Disney. And Jimmy being canceled, I said it yesterday. You can go back and listen to all the nuance because I think I walked a pretty careful line yesterday. He was canceled because of what he said in a broadcast format. And again, there's a difference between broadcast and social media. If Jimmy had a podcast, if he'd put out a TikTok saying the exact same thing, it would still be controversial, but it wouldn't have cost him his job on air. And that, I think, is the difference that's missing here. Unfortunately, some broadcasters, namely the mainstream media news, are taking this and trying to make him into some sort of a martyr. And I just don't see it. 15 minutes of the news yesterday, of a half-hour newscast, was dedicated to Jimmy Kimmel coverage, and I don't understand why. To me, this is very cut and dried. I also find it very hypocritical, Anna, of the coverage here from the people who are doing it, namely because none of them have ever stood up for anybody else who got canceled for something they said on the air. We don't have to go back very far to remember the example of Don Cherry.
Wait a minute. How about running it for the people that buy them? Now, you go to the small cities, and you know those, the rows on rows, you people love, you that come here, whatever it is, you love our way of life, you love our milk and honey. At least you could pay a couple of bucks for poppies or something like that. These guys pay for your way of life that you enjoy in Canada. These guys paid the biggest price.
Don Cherry was canceled for saying that. And nobody was arguing about censorship or freedom of speech or anything like that when Don Cherry was canceled for those comments. So listen, the Jimmy Kimmel thing, I certainly understand the argument. I understand that people are frustrated because they don't like Donald Trump or they think he interfered in some way. But either way, anybody in that situation that said what Kimmel said probably would have been pulled off the air.
Okay. Well, and it's interesting there's so much going on in the world for it to have 15 minutes worth of dedicated airtime. Having worked on TV myself, you have to stay biased. You're not supposed to lean any which way. And it's a hard pill sometimes when you really want to say something and you can't, but that's just part of how it works.
That's the broadcast system. I feel restrictions and limitations.
Yeah.
There's certain things I would love to say, but I also understand that my job as a broadcaster is to appeal to a broad audience.
Yeah.
And you don't do that by being divisive. And that's what Jimmy Kimmel did. Working for a company like ABC, I'm not entirely surprised. I'm also thinking about other people who have been canceled over the years. Everyone from Roseanne to Tucker Carlson, Megyn Kelly.
There's been so many.
There's so many of them. And I never remember a blowback like this. And I have to think that it's only because of Trump. By the way, Trump tweeting out a victory lap when Kimmel got taken off the air did not help this situation in any way. It's clouding the issue here. The issue is what he said in a broadcast format. That's why he got canceled. So listen to the episode if you're interested. I gave it a very down the middle explanation of why Kimmel is off the air. And you can make up your own mind. I don't want to change anybody's mind ever. That's not what I want to do. I just try and offer you a counter narrative to what you're seeing from the mainstream media. By the way, the vast majority of the mainstream media is owned and controlled by the left. That's why you don't see any right-leaning personalities or right-leaning perspectives on mainstream media. You just don't. You could watch Fox News, and that's kind of close, but it's still not the same thing. The vast majority of the media is left. So it shouldn't really be a surprise that they're going nuts over the Jimmy Kimmel thing. I just think that there's other examples that of cancel culture here where we could have a conversation about freedom of speech. I don't think what Don Cherry said was all that offensive, but he got yanked off the air. He lost his whole career over that.
I know.
Simply by trying to encourage new Canadians to support our veterans and buy a poppy.
Yeah, I think his delivery was taken wrong. And he said it in a delivery in a way that I could understand why people felt offended. But I didn't think that he had to be canceled over the entire thing. And I'm an immigrant and I wasn't offended. I was just like, OK, I see what you're trying to say. Your delivery is harsh, but.
Well, that is him, though. That's Grapes. That's how he talks.
And but that's the thing. We come to know that about him. And he said things very harshly in the past, and he's never been canceled. And that one was the one that one surprised me, to be honest with you.
Well, I think Trump has got to stay out of this. If he doesn't want to be blamed for cancel culture, then he's got to shut up. And I think that everybody's got to take a step back and ask, why was Jimmy Kimmel taken off the air? And even Jimmy, on some level, must be able to acknowledge that what he said wasn't appropriate for television. Again, do it on a podcast, do it on a TikTok, do it on a reel. It doesn't matter. That would have been fine. When you do it in a broadcast format to the point where your affiliates are canceling the show, I don't think ABC had any other choice. He also was getting paid a boatload of money and producing very, very bad ratings. So I'm sure on some level, this was a financial decision too. And that's just me trying to be as objective as possible about it. I don't want to see any broadcaster lose their job. Yeah. That's happening way too often as it is. But in this case, he knew it. He broke the rules. And that's the consequence for breaking the rules. It would have happened. Well, it did happen to me. I got canceled for my political beliefs. And I think a lot of other people are in the same boat. So it is what it is. I just didn't say it on the air.
Oh, see, yeah.
I didn't even say it on the air and I lost my job.
Oh, that is some harsh shit right there. I got to be honest with you. And I've been on TV and I've covered lots of different stories, and there have been many moments where I just want to say something and you just can't. You just can't, because I really wanted to keep my job. And that's really what it comes down to. It's the respect level of when you sign up for it.
In this episode, I'm going to do a What is Scott Smoking? I promised you that would happen this week. And in case you don't get through this whole episode, I'll tell you now that on Monday, I will have a silent date update here in the podcast.
Oh, so exciting.
You're off to Greece.
I am. I leave Sunday, so I will be tuning in because I really need my fix on Silent Date Guy.
Excellent. I love it. Okay, Anna, let's get to today's listener DMs.
All right, we're going to start with Olivia. She wrote, just to be blunt, you are saving me at the moment. I suddenly left my 9-to-5 job in Orangeville, Ontario, my hubby and the kiddos, and I landed myself back home to Newfoundland to take care of my dad, who has just been diagnosed with lung cancer.
Oh, my God. I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah, in and out of treatments, doctor's appointments, waiting rooms, et cetera, et cetera. And this pod and your voice is saving my sanity. You've given me back some normalcy routine that I had with you in my home office. So thank you in capital letters. Thank you to you and Anna.
Oh, I love that. Not about your dad, obviously.
No.
I hope he's okay. And I hope you're looking into as many different treatment options as possible. Keep an open mind to some of the non-traditional pharmaceutical options because there are other ways out there that cancer can be treated. So I'm just going to leave that at that. I'm not a doctor or here to give out medical advice. Just keep your options open. If I can help give you a little normalcy, having been uprooted from your home in Orangeville out to Newfoundland, I'm happy about that. Thank you for subscribing. I appreciate it.
Next up, we have Jen. Hey, Scott, jobs for young people is ridiculous. I have a 20-year-old and a 17-year-old, but cannot find a job. They have applied to over 100 places and counting. My 20-year-old left her job to move away for school and can't find a job. Young people are trying so hard to get jobs. It is sad times for young people.
What do you think about this before I address that? Young people, I'm sure you hear, you've got nephews and so on that can't find work. It's not just me, right?
It's not just you.
Everybody's experiencing a real serious lack of jobs for teenagers, typically doing like those quick serve restaurant jobs or grocery store jobs, and also for like recent university grads who have now got a degree and can't even get a call back to get experience, to get their resume padded for future jobs. There's just nothing out there.
There is nothing. And my nephew is 23. He's been at this now for so long. In the beginning, I thought, are you lying to me? Then we started seeing these stats come out and I thought, oh my goodness, this is incredibly difficult. And he's tried. I've seen him. He's applied many places and he's not getting a call back. Not even like, hey, we got your resume. Unfortunately, we're fully stocked with people, fully staffed. Nothing. They're not getting anything. And even when he's gone for an interview, he hasn't had any, feedback saying, no, sorry, we gave it to somebody else.
The irony here is, you need to do a job to build up enough experience to be qualified for that next step. And people can't even get that entry level job. It's a real problem here in Canada. And for those who don't see it, because I know if you don't have young adults or older teenagers at home, maybe you don't see it. I see it every day in my DMs and in my own family. I have a son who left Canada and got a great job in America, and he's thriving. And since I told that story, I still hear from people daily that ask me, how can my kid get down to the States? What do they need to do to get a job down there? Now, their economy's a little slower right now, too. Their jobs are pretty good, much better than Canada, but it's competitive down there, too. I think the best advice I can give you is hang in there, keep doing the best you can, put out as many resumes as possible, and just hope for the best. And if going south is something you're considering, I don't blame you. I would be a hypocrite if I did. I miss my son every day, but he's thriving in the States, and I think a lot of people would probably prefer that to no job here.
Absolutely. And just keep in mind, regardless of what people say, in my opinion, just follow up, constantly follow up, and hopefully somebody will give you a chance.
Hopefully, but between AI and automation and the amount of temporary foreign workers and immigrants that are taking up the jobs, it's not looking good for young people out there. We also got to keep in mind we are in a recession and there's not a lot of companies that hire during a recession, which means the recession itself is going to get worse. I hope for the best, but it's a little bleak at the moment. Yeah,
on keeping with bleak, this is from Terry. $5 bet that the $10 day childcare is gone. It's up for renewal as of April, and my daycare sent a letter out saying the federal government has not signed off on additional funding for the future. Prepare rates to go back to normal.
That's a real concern for a lot of people. The government is going to have to cut. I think everybody needs to get ready for that. When the budget finally comes out on November 4th, it's going to be split into two. I explained a little bit yesterday about how they're going to do the new budget. There's the operating budget, which is the day-to-day expenses of running the government. And then there's the capital budget. And they're going to play a couple of accounting tricks. If you want to hear the details, listen to yesterday's episode because it wasn't me explaining it. It was the parliamentary budget officer that explained what they're doing. The budget is going to call for cuts. Not only is there going to be massive job losses within the federal civil service, there's also going to be a lot of programs that get cut. Now, this listener is speculating it's going to be the $10 a day childcare program. I don't know if the government was ever committed to that anyway. It was Trudeau that introduced that, and he did it when he needed a political win, and it cost the taxpayers a ton of money. We still haven't even fully implemented it where people are getting $10 a day childcare. And I don't know if this is something that Prime Minister Carney is all that committed to. Something has got to get cut. whether it's the pharmacare, the dental care, the $10 a day childcare, whether it is subsidies for this or that, something's got to get cut. And I hate to say it, but if you're relying on that $10 a day childcare, I would think that's probably one of the first places the government is going to look to cut. They just have to cut money because we don't have enough. The deficit is going to be over $100 billion. And if they've got to get money out of the budget to sink money into steel and aluminum, seafood, and the industries that are affected by tariffs, then something's got to go. And if it's the $10 a day childcare, I don't know what families are going to do, because that was bankrupting families before it came into effect. There were families that were spending between $2,000 and $3,000 a month just to have somebody watch their kids during the day. And frankly, if we have to go back to that, I don't know what that's going to mean for a lot of folks. I think it's going to mean we need to get to a position where a family can live off of a single income. And the income is going to have to come from one person because the other is going to have to stay home with the kid. And that's if it's a 2-parent household. Yeah. Single family households, I don't know what the heck you're going to do. You guys are going to have to form like alliances with other parents where one parent agrees to stay home while a few others go out and earn enough money to pay for their house and supplement the daycare for everybody. Oh. I think that's the only way it's going to work. I feel horrible. The whole point of this was to get more women in the workforce, which is something we should all strive for. But this ain't it. If he cuts that child care program, a lot of families are going to get screwed over. Oh. By the way, that's just speculation. I want to specify that. That's a theory that $10 a day child care is going to get cut. I think it's a theory that makes sense, but we won't actually know until November the 4th.
Next question is from Grant. The Charlie Kirk situation has been tough. Thanks for covering it. He seemed to just want dialogue and acceptance of differing opinions, but was killed for that. As a Mennonite Christian, I feel a loss of hope seeing how divided we're becoming. It's not left or right, it's all people. How can we best help right now? I'm strongly leaning towards running for municipal office. We all need to step up.
Oh, that's a great point. I would really love to see more people get more interested in politics. And it might seem like wherever you're listening to me from here in Canada, Ottawa's a long way away. And I mean that figuratively. The thought of you just doing your job or doing whatever it is you're doing right now, sitting in the House of Commons debating policy, probably seems kind of out there. And it may very well be. I think the whole nomination process is rigged federally and provincially because the leaders have people they want around them. And if you aren't it, you're not it. Municipal's an interesting one, though, because there's a lot of issues that are affecting families municipally where people, regular folks, could run and make a difference. I would very much like to see a huge mobilization of the middle class to take over City Hall. And here's what I mean by that. We have municipal politicians, mayors, chairs, and councillors that are going nuts raising people's property taxes. Every year, property taxes go up, and you don't really see any measurable increase in the city services that you get. They're burning through money at an alarming rate. And then there's the speed enforcement cameras. This is just proof that municipal politicians want money more than they want your vote. They do not in any way care about the people that live in their ridings or in their catchment. They don't. Otherwise, they wouldn't go ahead with things that keep costing families in their area money. So I think we need to replace them all. And winning a municipal election is far easier than winning a provincial or federal one, because most of the time people are going to vote for whoever has the most signs, whoever has the nicest name, whoever they happen to have met at the grocery store. There's a lot of ways that you can win, and voter turnout is very, very low. So if you want to run for municipal politics, run as a city councillor or a mayor or something like that, shoot your shot. You've got nothing to lose. It's very, very easy to put your name on the ballot. You get invited to the debates, and you can have an actual impact on your neighborhood, on your community. Please go for it, Grant. If you're considering it, do it. And for anyone else who thinks these people are out of touch, they just keep sucking money out of my family, and they don't care what I think because they're going ahead with these speed enforcement cameras, even though the premier has told them to stop, and even though the public has told them to stop, run. Put your name on the ballot, and I will happily support people who don't support speed enforcement cameras and who want to bring property taxes down, not raise them. Unfortunately, most of the folks at City Hall are drunken sailors when it comes to spending. They do not understand. They don't comparatively shop. They aren't looking for the best quote. And I think a lot of them are getting kickbacks anyway. We've got to send these people packing. And I am totally prepared to put my money where my mouth is in my particular area next fall. The election will be next October. And I will organize and help you if you want to run against a mayor that thinks these speed enforcement cameras are a good idea. If you want to challenge them, I'll help you. You just let me know what I can do.
Oh my gosh, for a second, I thought you were saying you were going to run.
Well,
I was like, oh my gosh, this is breaking news.
And you know what, Anna? I'm just about close enough to saying that because these speed enforcement cameras are nothing more than a tax grab. And these mayors that are gaslighting their own citizens into it's here to protect the kids and the seniors, they're full of it. I put an invite out to my local mayor, Marianne Mead Ward, who is clearly out of touch with the taxpayers of Burlington, doesn't care what they think anyway. She needs to be challenged on those. Especially the cameras. I invited her to come on the pod. I personally invited her to come on and debate me. She didn't even reply.
Oh, yeah.
Now I hear that the chiefs of police are behind these speed enforcement cameras. And you know what that tells me is that the chiefs of police, who are basically politicians, by the way. I don't want to confuse the chiefs with the beat cops that are out there doing the hard work of policing and the dangerous work of policing every single day. The chiefs of police are very much political, and I don't like that. If you chiefs are now supporting these cameras, you're not in touch with the residents of your community because they don't want it, and it doesn't seem like you're that interested in doing your job. Your job was always to keep the peace, enforce the law, and also to enforce traffic laws. If you don't want to do that and you'd rather just leave it to machines, then I'm going to have a real hard time supporting you when you say we need another increase to our budget, meaning everybody's property taxes are going to go up again. That's how property taxes go up. The single biggest thing in a city budget is policing. And it's getting more and more and more expensive every year. Frankly, I don't understand why, because I see less cops on the street than ever before. If now they want to farm out writing traffic tickets to these machines, then I don't know why they would need an increase to their budget. And I will firmly oppose any police force that thinks they need more money when they support these speed enforcement cameras. Please listen to me. These cameras have to go. Despite what your politicians are telling you, they are not about public safety. They are just about money. They are a revenue tool. And if the chiefs want to support it, then I am no longer supporting those chiefs. Full stop. It's enough. It's got to stop. And if you chiefs don't want to do your job, understood, get out of the way and let some new leadership in that is going to listen to the folks in their community.
All right. Rob, when wages go up, costs rise, so goods get pricier. Then the BOC raises rates to curb spending, which cuts demand just when manufacturers need it most to cover higher wages. The result? Layoffs, fewer shifts, hiring freezes, and even higher prices, the opposite of what's needed. If the government really wants to fight inflation, drop rates to near 0.5% to boost spending, demand, and jobs, and cut taxes so Canadians keep more money to spend. And that is from Rob.
Was there a question in there, or was he just making a point?
I think he's making a point, but also, like, what are your thoughts?
Say it again for me.
So when wages go up, costs rise, and so goods get pricier. Then the BOC raises rates to curb spending, which cuts demand just when manufacturers need it the most to cover wages. The result? Layoffs, fewer shifts, hiring freezes, and even higher prices, the opposite of what's needed. If the government really wants to fight inflation, drop rates to near zero to boost spending, demand, and jobs, and cut taxes so Canadians keep more money to spend.
I mean, the interest rates are a big problem, huge problem. The government of Canada doesn't care. They're letting the Bank of Canada run roughshod over the taxpayers. And the Bank of Canada certainly doesn't care because they say it's not our problem. Policy's not our big deal. We're just supposed to control inflation, which they grossly failed at over the last few years. When we are intentionally costing taxpayers too much money, that's what stalls the economy. You know, when you think back, I keep hearing people talk about the example of after World War II, Canada went on a big boom with a fraction, almost none of the regulation that we have today. We basically let business drive the economy, and business wanted to build. Business wanted to create. They wanted to innovate, and they needed staff to do that. We're in a situation right now where everything is so expensive. Businesses are watching every penny. They're regulated to death, and government just will not get out of their way and do what business does, create a thriving economy. You know, I know it seems counterintuitive, but if politicians would lower taxes, that would actually help out the economy much more because people would have more money in their pockets. Then they could go out and support those businesses. That's also the same with interest rates. Oh, we've got to suck all the money out of the middle class's pocket because they're reckless spenders. And when they spend, it bids up the price of everything. It creates demand. I think that's ass backwards. How about you put more money in people's pockets, let them pay down some debt, let them enjoy themselves and spend some money, let them buy the products and services they need, and that's what will help other businesses thrive. The only politician in Canada that I've seen get it is Doug Ford. He's the only one who believes that more money in people's pockets is good for the economy. The Bank of Canada's job right now is to suck money out of people's pockets so they don't spend. And of course, they don't have much left over anyway because the federal government in particular is taxing the hell out of us. If they taxed us less, if interest rates were lower, that's how you ignite this economy and send people out there to stimulate it themselves. You know, there's a lot of appliance makers out there who are probably complaining about tariffs, begging for government handouts. Maybe you appliance makers should go to the government and say, why don't you let people keep more of their own money so they're more inclined to not want to hang on to a 50-year-old fridge for another couple of years, so they'll go out and buy a new fridge now or a new washer and dryer now. That's how we support business. It's not by taxing them. It's not by taking money away from them with interest rates. We need to give people money so they can stimulate the economy. Rob is absolutely right. If I'm interpreting what he said.
And next,
correctly.
Yes. And next one, speaking of money, this is from Pav. Hey, Scott, how are you? Question about money. I would like to know why printing money is bad for the country. All the best for you and Anna.
Oh, boy, that's a great question. When we print money, when we increase the money supply without increasing the supply of goods and services, then it's exactly what Pierre Poilievre first started trying to explain years ago when Justin Trudeau went nuts with the printing machine. You've got too much money in the market chasing too few goods, and that bids up the price of everything. That's where inflation comes from. We also don't have very stable ground to be able to be printing this money because every time we print the money, we've got to issue bonds to back that up. And eventually, we're going to have to reimburse those bonds and the interest. So when we're printing money, we're hurting ourselves. The government is convinced they need money right now, so they go out and print. But unless there's a corresponding supply in goods and services, all that's doing is you've got too much money chasing too few goods. That's what bids up the price of everything. In a nutshell, economists could probably give you a better, more in-depth or thoughtful explanation, but that's the top line on why we shouldn't be printing money. We should have a government that can live within its means. If the government only brings in $1 billion a year in taxes. By the way, it wasn't that long ago that it was like forbidden to say billions. Governments dealt in millions. Now everything is in billions and everybody just goes along with it like that's normal. Mm-hmm. It's not normal to be spending this kind of money. If you only bring in $1 billion, that means you can only spend $1 billion. No more. We can't print more money to bail people out. We have bonds out there, and the bond holders, which are namely foreign governments, they're going to want their money at some point. And we've got to pay that off. That's part of the reason that we pay so much in interest is because we've leveraged ourselves far too much. Again, I'm not an economist. That's just my understanding and interpretation of what's actually happening out there. You would need to speak to an economist to have them give you the more in-depth and thoughtful explanation. But that's the top line. You got too much money chasing too few goods, and that's what bids up prices.
Very good. Yeah. Brad writes, hey, just wanted to weigh in on the Jimmy Kimmel stuff.
Good.
I think you did a good job of covering it in an unbiased way. One thing I read that was interesting is apparently ABC has some sort of multi-billion-dollar deal in the works, and that the FCC head, who is a Trump friend, allegedly would not approve it unless Kimmel was taken off the air. Not sure how accurate that is, but I found it interesting.
Okay, so I'll do a little bit now from what I did yesterday in the Jimmy Kimmel thing. But again, please don't judge what you're hearing in this episode about Jimmy Kimmel without hearing yesterday's context. Don't judge me for that because you're probably, if you just turned this episode on, are thinking, oh, well, he's a Trump guy. He doesn't like Kimmel, blah, blah, blah. And that's simply not true. I explained in depth yesterday, but here's the Coles notes on the Jimmy Kimmel situation. what he said on air was inappropriate for broadcast. The FCC was going to get involved like they would if anybody on any radio station in America or any television station in America had made a similar comment and complaints were filed with the government. The FCC is going to investigate. In America, the FCC is very much like we have here in Canada, the CRTC. Now, the head of the FCC is appointed by the government of the day, which right now happens to be the Donald Trump administration. Here in Canada, for more than 10 years now, our CRTC has had a chair that has been appointed by either Justin Trudeau or Mark Carney. And I think we're still working off of Trudeau's guy. The government controls the regulatory body. That's the way it works in Canada and the U.S. By the way, Joe Biden appointed the last director of the FCC. The government of the day appoints them. Now, what these people or this theory is suggesting is that the head of the FCC, because he was appointed by Donald Trump, doesn't like that Jimmy Kimmel is so mean to Donald Trump and he wanted him off the air. That's a theory. Did Donald Trump phone ABC and say, get rid of Jimmy Kimmel? Maybe. I'm not saying it's impossible. It's not even implausible that he wouldn't phone Bob Iger there at Disney and say, hey, listen, get this guy off the television because he's not providing any service for anybody other than the echo chamber that watches Jimmy Kimmel, which, again, as I mentioned earlier, is a very left-leaning audience. And it's not a very big audience either. This was an opportunity for Disney to save some money. Jimmy gets paid a ton of money, a ton. Ratings are down. Advertising revenue is down. And ABC saw this as an opportunity to get rid of him. That's pretty much all there is to it on the surface. Was there interference? Maybe. I'm not saying it's impossible. Maybe there was. But either way, that decision was made by ABC. The FCC didn't pull Jimmy Kimmel off the air. Donald Trump didn't pull Jimmy Kimmel off the air. Jimmy Kimmel, in a broadcast format, made an inappropriate comment, and that's why he's off the air. Was that the only reason he's off? I don't believe it was. I think part of the reason he's off is because he gets too much money for a show that doesn't generate that kind of revenue, and they're tired of losing. You know, they can't get people to watch television in prime time on a Thursday night anymore. How on earth can they expect to make money and draw ratings overnight on a show that starts at 11:30 or 12:30 in the morning? There's just not a big enough audience out there to keep him at the salary he's making. I have no doubt Jimmy Kimmel has got a political career ahead of him. They're setting him up for that right now. I have no doubt that he has a career in digital. He'll probably start a podcast or his own online show or something like that. He's got the support and expertise behind him that he can do it. And he's a multi-millionaire as well. Jimmy Kimmel is not done. His family is not going to miss any meals. He'll be fine. He'll be back. But in a broadcast format, none of the networks, ABC, CBS, NBC, they're not going to keep spending that kind of money on a show that airs at 12:30 in the morning and nobody is watching. And I hate to tell you this, but Jimmy Fallon is probably going to be next because his ratings aren't much better. You know, back in the day when it was Jay Leno and David Letterman and so on and so forth, Jon Stewart on Comedy Central, that's when late night TV was cooking. But that was before we had streaming services and all these other things that provide alternate entertainment. People just aren't watching traditional television anymore. If Jimmy wanted to take his show over to Netflix, he'd probably do very, very well. And by the way, you can do whatever the hell you want on Netflix. You just can't do it in a broadcast setting. And Jimmy knew that, and he did it anyway. And I've heard conflicting stories. There's some who say he was getting ready to apologize when they fired him. I've also heard he was getting ready to double down and go harder. That was going to create problems for ABC and the Next Star affiliates that had already pulled out. I think ABC saw this as a good opportunity, and hey, good on them, because they got rid of all that salary on their books. They don't have to worry about him anymore or him getting them in trouble, and Donald Trump wears all the blame. Disney handled this perfectly.
Well, Jordan writes, hey, Scott, interesting perspective on Jimmy Kimmel's cancellation. Someone compared it to Don Cherry, which you talked earlier, about losing his job over a poppy speech. If you're upset about losing your job for cheering for an assassination, remember Don Cherry lost his for saying you people need to wear a poppy. A lot of what he said back then is stuff we're openly talking about now and no longer radical, but hard truths. Thought it was an interesting take to add.
Everything is timing. Everything is timing. Don Cherry said what he said, and it got him canceled because at the time, cancel culture was thriving and they were looking to take any voice on the right off of television. That's just the way it happened. That's a fact. Today, if Don Cherry had been on TV and said the exact same thing, I don't think there would be as much blowback. It was the time he said it. Jimmy Kimmel may very well have been able to say exactly what he said, but not right now, not when it's too fresh, and it offended deeply a large portion of the American people. People who saw it and people who had to see it online afterwards. I don't know how you can support that. Jimmy was his own worst enemy in this case. But having said that, again, he's not hard done by here. He's going to be just great, and he's probably going to end up making more money than he ever did. He's almost trying to portray himself now as a martyr for this cause of free speech, even though this is not a free speech issue. I believe in free speech. I have free speech because I'm a Canadian. That doesn't give me permission to say whatever I want in a broadcast format because the broadcaster, the company who owns the radio station that I work at, is going to wear the blame if the CRTC has to get involved. So they're going to cut me. And they would do that to anyone else. That's just the way the broadcast system worked. Wrong time, wrong medium, wrong message for when he said it.
Next up, we have Hunter. Hey, Scott, can you share more details on how constituents can go about voicing their opinions in a way that will actually bring results? The municipalities seem to be pretty dead set on their reasoning. Do we need to bring forward our own data and case to combat their case? Or is it enough with emails from the community members? Is it actually enough? Let us know.
Kind of depends where you live. I'd say in Toronto, the vast majority of Toronto Council doesn't care what their people think. They don't. You can tell in just about everything they do. Toronto is a lawless city that is now trying to regulate what you do with your own home. If you don't occupy it, they tax the hell out of you. They want you giving your home out to refugees and immigrants when you're not using it. I mean, it's completely ridiculous that they're trying to regulate what happens in your home. They don't care about the people. But in a lot of cities, municipalities, you do have a lot of influence. The influence, though, mainly comes from the councillors. These councillors get elected with like 100 votes in some cases because nobody knows who they are. They just have to vote for somebody. They feel bad if they don't, so let's check a box. And more often than not, it's the only name that seems most familiar to them. There's an opportunity there because these people are getting a great paycheck for doing very little work. Contact your local counselor. And you know what? If you have an opportunity to discuss it with them, no, you don't need to bring your own facts and figures. Make them show you their facts and figures. Right now, everybody's trying to justify speed enforcement cameras based on Toronto numbers. Even the Burlington announcement was based on Toronto numbers. We don't have the same problems in Burlington that Toronto has. Make them show you, hey, how many people got hit by a car in Burlington? How many traffic fatalities were there in Burlington to justify this emergency situation? Make them show you their numbers. It can't all be based off of Toronto. That's it's not apples to apples. And in a lot of cases, you'll find these people some of them are very cowardly and they can't back up their own argument. These are people who are politicians that are elected. They're collecting taxpayer money to do a job, quote unquote, but they can't back up their own argument. Challenge them on it and make them show you what the difference is between a camera and a speed bump. Where did they test the speed bumps? Because I don't think they did. Where did they test the effectiveness of just painting on the road a narrowing lane? Apparently, that's extremely effective at getting people's attention and making them slow down a more narrow road, even if it is just painted lines. There's a lot of ways that never did get tested because they only wanted to test the speed enforcement cameras because those are the ones that make money. Challenge them on those things. Get them in front of you and ask them, how can you tell me for certain that these improve road safety? How does giving someone a ticket 7 to 10 days later slow people down right now? The answer is it doesn't. They can't prove it. And the fact that these cameras are issuing more and more and more tickets completely kills their own argument. If these cameras were that effective at making people slow down, you would think that we'd be giving less and less and less tickets. The numbers are going up and people are getting pissed off. 3 more cameras got cut down last night, and I don't even blame people anymore. I don't blame them. We're living in a society where gangbangers and people who commit serious crimes are in and out of jail in the same day. They get court time and appeals and all these other things. But if you're going 8 kilometers an hour over the limit, that's arbitrary. You screwed up. You will pay or we'll revoke your license.
Yeah.
It's insanity, Anna, that regular citizens, they're going after us because we let them. Criminals have an advocate in Ottawa. We as taxpayers don't seem to have an advocate, and our counselors have forgotten that that's their job. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah. It's frustrating for sure. We got Sharon here. She writes, "Hey, Scott, I love the show. With the question period, do they ever answer questions? I'm not sure I really understand the point of the question period. All question and accusations, never any answers."
I heard a great joke. I think it was Lisa Raitt that told me this years and years ago. And she was a fabulous member of Parliament, by the way. She said they call it question period, not answer period. Question period is where it's supposed to be, where our government can debate issues. The leader of the opposition could ask the prime minister, hey, why are you doing this? And have you considered doing that? It was always intended to be done in a respectful way so that through communication and talking it out, we can come up with the best set of policies for Canadians in the best interest of Canada. But because things are such a team sport in politics now, and it's far more important to win than it is to create good policy or be responsible to the taxpayers, that's what it's come down to. They're just trying to get sound bites. Pierre Poilievre knows Mark Carney's not going to directly answer his question, but it gives Pierre some great ammo for social media to show, all I asked was how much is the deficit? And look what the prime minister said. Everything but how much the deficit is. It's good in a digital world, but it's not good for solving our country's problems. They really don't seem to want to talk to each other, especially the party that said they want to collaborate and they want to work with the opposition. They couldn't even answer a simple question yesterday, like how much is our deficit? It's bananas. Question period originally used to be a very good and effective tool, and watching it, you could see thoughtful debate and two different perspectives, typically one from the left and one from the right. Now it's really just a whole get as crazy as you can to get that big social media moment and go viral.
Yeah, you're right. We have one from Anonymous. Scott, who is the speaker in Parliament, and why can we not call them by their name?
Who's the speaker the Speaker of the House?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So it was Greg Fergus. I think now it's Francis something.
Yeah.
Scarpalia.
And so why can't they call her by her name? Why does it always have to be Speaker?
So we have a Westminster-style parliamentary system in Canada. In that, we use titles, not names. You'll never hear the Speaker say, Pierre Poilievre, go ahead and ask a question. They'll say, the Honourable Leader of the Opposition, ask a question. You'll never hear her say, there's your question from Pierre Poilievre. Mark Carney, go ahead and answer the question. So the Prime Minister will answer the question. And in turn, you call the Speaker, Speaker. That's just a respect thing. It's part of the Westminster system that we have. Maybe I don't mind it, actually. I don't really care about their names. I mean, I'd really like to know if it's the Leader of the Opposition, if it's the Minister of Defense, if it's the whomever. The title gives you a little more information than the actual name would, and it hasn't really hurt us or our democracy, so I'm okay with continuing on with titles. The Speaker just happens to have the title of Speaker, so you address them by Mr. or Madame Speaker.
Okay, interesting. Matt writes, hey, Scott, question for you. The clips of the House of Commons you play, where can I find them in full, and how often does whatever they're doing happen?
So question period is usually where those clips come from, although occasionally there's committee testimony. CPAC on YouTube is a great place that you can go, and every day they live stream the parliamentary session. Sometimes the committees, but not that often. It depends what the committee is going to be talking about. The question period, though, is always streamed. So if you just go to YouTube and type in question period, there's going to be some links there. CPAC, CPAC is a great place that you can watch it. They're very reliable, and they post both the English and the French feed, depending on what's best for you. Other than that, X is a great place to get a lot of videos. There's a lot of people out there. And I don't know what their jobs are, but they spend a heck of a lot of time cutting clips from Parliament and sharing them on social media. So you can find some good stuff there as well. CPAC is my advice if you want to get pretty good coverage of what goes on in the House.
Perfect. Michelle writes, hey, Scott, you have said numerous times that you know high up politicians listen to your pod.
They do.
How do you know this? Obvious to me that they reached out to you after a pod was released. Is that what it is? Or I'd like to know your thoughts.
I mean, in some cases, I've had some politicians that I've run into them at events, or I've been playing in a golf tournament that they were in, and they've come over, they wanted a picture with me, or they wanted to shake my hand, and quietly they'll tell me, I like your podcast, or I don't like your podcast, but either way, they were listening. Sometimes it's staff. It's amazing because all these politicians have a huge staff, and the staff are basically the ones who are doing the work and running the show. And I have a lot of staffers at various levels, municipal, provincial, and federal, that will email me from time to time and let me know about some interesting stuff. And usually with those people, I'll give them my number so that they can WhatsApp me, and it's encrypted. And they prefer it that way too, but they're in a way whistleblowers. And some of them have told me. I've never once heard that Justin Trudeau listens to my podcast. I've heard anecdotally from some that the premier occasionally listens to my pod, and a few other premiers in Canada as well, by the way. Yeah, I mean, it happens in different ways, but I've come to know that there are quite a few that listen. I'll tell you, there's a number of mayors that are listening because they reach out all the time about various issues, and none of them that I know are listening have taken me up on my offer to debate speed enforcement cameras. The offer is still there, by the way. And you know what? I guess I should even open it up to chiefs of police, since they want to be on team We Don't Care About Taxpayers. So if you're a chief of police in Ontario, if you are a mayor in Ontario, and you're somewhere that has these speed enforcement cameras, my door is open. Please come in here, debate me, and let's let the taxpayers decide who creates a more compelling argument for whether or not we need speed enforcement cameras or whether or not they're a cash grab. Offers open. Call me. Slide into my DMs, and I will get you sitting here next week if you're available, and we'll debate and let everyone decide. But that one will be on camera. And again, do your homework, because I'm telling you I've done mine, and it will be a debate.
And we have actually some interesting takes for speed cameras here. Steph says, hey, Scott, hope the tournament raised lots of good money because it was a good cause last weekend.
The Burlington Dads one, it did raise a lot of money. I don't have a total yet, but the guys who put it together did a real great job.
And then she went on to say, I found today's episode more balanced. You're transparent about your bias, which I respect. Keep scrutinizing it, pardon my slur there, to stay the voice of reason. So really appreciate it. On speed cameras, maybe start with 12 months of warning, then gradually add fines for 10 plus kilometers over.
The least they can do is set it to 10 kilometers over. Everyone who has got a driver's license understands, and it's basically an unspoken rule, but also not unspoken, that you can get away with up to 10 kilometers an hour over the limit. But these speed enforcement cameras don't see it that way. People are getting jammed for doing 5, 6, 7, 8 kilometers an hour over the limit. And that's completely unfair. The least they could do is set it to not ticket somebody who's going less than 10 over the limit. 15 is where you would get demerit points.
Yeah.
I don't understand why 15 isn't the threshold. If you've got a speed enforcement camera in a 40 zone, unless someone is doing at least 50 or 55, you better shut that damn camera off. But this is balance, right? That's a common sense thing. If you really truly feel that these are the ways to slow people down, then yes, give them lots of notice. 90 days is simply not enough. A lot of people don't realize that those cameras are there. They should only be to people in the actual community if you live in it, because frankly, you're not teaching me a lesson by giving me a ticket in Caledon when I don't live in Caledon and I never go there. You're punishing me with a victim surcharge. And again, no one can explain who the victim here is. It's all wrong. There's no reasonable mayors out there that want to compromise on this. They're telling us we're putting in these cameras. You're going to shut up and like it. And you're going to accept our BS argument that it's to protect seniors and kids, even though they have no seniors or kids that got hit by cars in the last year or two. So that's that. They don't want a deal. They don't want to compromise. It's very arbitrary. Our way or nothing. They won't even let you fight these tickets unless it's a very special set of circumstances. Those aren't reasonable people. If you wanted to come to us and say, we think we need these, we think they'll help slow people down, we're going to be reasonable about it. Nobody's going to get a ticket for doing 50 in a 40 or 60 in a 50, but they're here to catch people who are egregiously speeding recklessly through school zones and community safety zones. We could absolutely have a conversation about that. I would be open to a conversation like that. It's the mayors and politicians, and apparently now the chiefs of police, that don't want to be reasonable, that don't want to see it our way. It's arbitrary. They want it their way, and that's it. Now, as far as being, she said, what, more balanced?
Gradually add fines. Oh, you're balanced because you're biased. She respects that, and to keep being the voice of reason.
Hey, listen, I have a bias. I am a conservative. I am a right-leaning individual. Full stop. But more than that, I'm also a member of the middle class, and I hang out with middle class people. I understand middle class families, and I try and represent them on this podcast. I try and be balanced, but sometimes when the middle class is getting railroaded by their own government, I got to call it out. So no, I'm not particularly balanced on this speed camera issue, other than what I just said. We can compromise here. It's the mayors and chairs that don't want to compromise, and apparently the chiefs of police. I'd like names on which chiefs said this. I'd like to know specifically which chiefs of police and what municipalities they're in that said they support these cameras. I'd like to know the names, and I'd like to see their budgets. I'd like to see how many speeding tickets their cops are writing. I'd like to really drill down on the numbers there and find out where they're coming from, because I find it very, very concerning that chiefs of police are trying to interject themselves into this conversation and essentially create less work for themselves and still get all the money that they're collecting with none of the effort on behalf of or by their police officers.
Well, Jeff's keeping with all that. Jeff says, seeing as you're now at Light 92 at Brantford, you should push for the mayor or member of council of Brantford to come on and explain their reasoning for continuing to go through with their new speed camera starting this fall, local station, local politics. I've sent an email to my ward councillors.
Good.
Citing Doug Ford's comments and have not received any responses. Keep doing what you're doing and reach for the stars. You are destined to reach even more greatness.
I like that a lot. Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, I mean, the radio station that we work at, Light 92.1, the studios are in Brantford. We serve a massive area that reaches basically from Etobicoke to London. It's a huge, huge signal. So while specifically geographically our area is Brantford, we actually have a much bigger area than that. Any mayor, literally any one of them. Andrea Horvath in Hamilton, you've come on my show 4 times when you were looking for votes as the leader of the New Democratic Party. 4 times I've given you airtime. I want you now to come on here and explain to the residents of Hamilton why these speed enforcement cameras are fair and just and not a tax grab. Barry Verbanovic, I've interviewed him more than a dozen times. Barry, I realize these are Waterloo Region's cameras, but I also realize you're on Waterloo Region Council. You come in here and tell me and the people of Kitchener-Waterloo why these cameras are necessary. Mayor of London, Josh, you come on. Olivia Chow, invite's open to you as well. Marianne there in Burlington, invite is open. Cam in Guelph, Cam Guthrie, you get in here. You come talk to me and debate me. None of them will, Anna, because they know they can't argue with common sense. And common sense has to prevail because it's common sense. And these things are not. They're not going to come on. I know they're not going to come on. I'll be pleasantly surprised if they do, but I just don't see it happening.
Well, Anonymous, they say Mayor Tom of Aurora is all about photo ops. I think he only spoke up on speed cameras because you were calling out mayors who push them, and he wanted it clear that the region runs hours since Class 1 roads fall under their jurisdiction. Last year, council had us study cameras in residential school zones as well. We used radar and also tested areas with traffic calming, using cushions, tables, and lane narrowing. The report found that cameras weren't feasible and the current measures work, so we recommended against them.
Okay, I can't tell you how many whistleblowers, I'll call them, and I always keep them anonymous. I can't tell you how many different staffers in various municipalities who also hate these cameras have sent me similar stuff. These mayors all have internal numbers that show these cameras are not effective. And when you come in to debate me, bring everything. Bring your own internal studies, because I want to see them. Again, Anna, they can't defend these things because it goes completely against the will of the taxpayers and common sense. So they won't debate. They're just going to impose their will, and they're going to hope that by next fall, people forget. Everyone, please don't forget my mantra for the next year. Next fall, we fire them all. Every single mayor, chair, and councillor that supports these cameras, and now it's totally fine to take names. You should contact your local councillor and find out if they support these cameras. And if they do, they're officially on your list, and next fall, they will not be voted for.
Say next fall?
Next fall, we fire them all.
That's so fun. Okay, and the next one is, hey, Scott, I got a speeding ticket from a speed camera going 34 on a 30 last year.
No road should be a 30 speed limit. That's just preposterous.
Yeah.
It's completely ridiculous. Golf carts and scooters go faster than 30. Stop that nonsense. The only reason they lowered things to 30 is because of that stupid sick kids survey that said a kid is more likely to survive getting hit by a car at 40 than 50. It's ridiculous. I mean, it's just one of the most insulting surveys to people's intelligence I've ever seen. And frankly, I'm shocked that sick kids put their name on it. I don't know why they did. I don't think 30 is a speed that cars should be expected to do unless it is a very unique road in a very unique neighborhood. The vast majority, we should not have a 30 speed limit.
Yeah, and they want you to know that they haven't paid for it and nothing's come of it.
Is that right?
Yep.
I'm surprised.
Me too.
You know it's going to be coming soon because these they want their money and they always find a way, right? I still think it's inappropriate that the province collects fines on behalf of the 407. I don't think that's okay either. The 407 is a private business, and if you don't pay your 407 bill, they'll suspend your driver's license or your plate. I think that's preposterous. But something like that is going to be coming soon to collect the fines from people who don't pay their camera tickets. And that's wrong, too.
Yeah. Martin Road, just to touch on the speed cameras with actually speeding tickets or traffic violations. If you are guilty and you pay a fine, that is the punishment. But our insurance company will see it and we get punished again for a long time with higher rates. I think if we pay the fine, then that should be enough of a punishment when you're getting one of those speed tickets or traffic violations.
Are the insurance companies eventually going to start charging you more because of red light tickets? Not red light ones, speed enforcement. I don't know. I don't know how they can prove it was you. It was, I mean, in my situation, the car that's in my name, my girlfriend drives. And the car that's in her name, I drive. And it doesn't matter. We live in the same house. It's the same insurance policy. It's fine. It's just, it makes more sense from a commuter standpoint. She drives a lot less than I do, that we just switch cars. So if I got a ticket in her car, the ticket's going to her. I don't know how they could enforce insurance increases on that, but nothing surprises me with the insurance companies. If they can find a way to raise the price, you bet your butt they will.
No doubt. Alex, right? Hey, buddy. Yesterday at a gas station in Guelph, the gas was 1.429. Tonight, at that same gas station, it is 1.179. How can they do a 0.25 drop either way overnight? I'm not complaining, but something just doesn't add up.
I've said this many times before, and I know government doesn't want to hear it, but this is the reality of gas prices. It's all collusion. It's all collusion. You've got gas stations across the street from each other, and they're watching each other's signs. If one guy lowers the price, the other guy's going to lower the price. If one raises his price, the other one's going to raise his price because they're trying to all make as much money as possible, and they need to stay competitive. If that's not collusion, then somebody needs to re-explain to me what collusion means, because that I can't see it any other way. Gas seems to be based on market factors. Last night, the night before, gas went down 8 cents a liter in Ontario because we had to switch back over to the winter blend, which uses more butane, which is cheaper. It's an additive that goes into the gas, and that's supposed to make starting your car in the winter months more reliable. We do that every year. In the winter and spring. Spring, we switch to the summer blend, and in the fall, we switch to the winter blend. It brought it down 8 cents a liter. Here's the thing. Unless that gas station got filled up, their tanks underneath the gas station with that new winter blend, there's no reason to change the price. Nothing changed. They're selling the exact same gas, either lower or higher, based on market factors, not based on what they paid for it. You know, at least when you go to McDonald's, they can factor in how much it costs them to buy a beef patty, how much it costs them to buy a bun and the condiments and pay the staff and the electricity and the taxes. And based on that and how much they project to sell, that's how you get the price of a Big Mac combo. Gas stations have just got the freedom, whether they paid more or less for what's in the ground or not, to raise the price arbitrarily with no notice. It's collusion. We're being ripped off. We live in a country that is full of oil. We're one of the biggest potential oil producing nations in the world. We should be paying the same here as what they're paying in Saudi Arabia and Dubai. But we don't care about our own people. We want to leave most of it in the ground anyway for ideological, environmental reasons. And Canadians are paying way too much for something that we should be getting very, very cheap. And nobody bats an eye that these gas stations are raising prices, even though nothing on their end changed. Their overhead didn't increase. They didn't get a new shipment of gas that cost them more. It's just a racket. They are ripping us off, and nobody seems to care. I feel like I'm yelling at the clouds sometime. Gas prices, because these gas companies have been given a pass to rip people off for years, they'll firmly oppose it. But I think we need fixed prices on gas. If you paid this much based on what's in the ground, your markup is this. And if you don't like it, don't open a gas station. That's all there is to it. Stop ripping the Canadian people off. And also, the government rips us off just as much because they charge tax. Tax is a percentage. So as the price of gas goes up, so does the amount of money that the government makes off of it. That's how percentages work. It's all a racket, and we're the people getting ripped off.
All right. Well, next up, we have Brad. You used to have Barry Verbanovic on your old morning show, and it used to grind my gears how easy you guys would go on him. Is that something you had limits on? I liked how you called him out on these cash grab radar cameras. Has anybody taken you up on your offer about a debate? Not yet. Just want to say, Anna, you're crushing it. Oh, thank you. On the radio and podcast. I was skeptical when Scott said he would be adding someone because I also enjoyed his solo Scott episodes better, but having her on from time to time, I've always enjoyed her and her viewpoints as well. Well, thank you. Keep up the great work. Bonus question for you. What's the best round score you've ever played in golf, Scott?
The best I've ever shot is 76, 4 over par. I don't do that very consistently. Consistently, I'm in around the mid 80s. That's usually where I shoot. Look at me being honest with people.
There you go.
No, I usually shoot mid 80s. I have had rounds where I was at 76, 4 over par. Though that was the best round. But ever since I screwed up my ankle, my golf game is not the same, Anna. I can't hit it the same. I don't get the distance I used to get. And let's face it, as men get older, they lose some of the strength and speed that they once had. And that's exactly what's happening to me. I'm in my late 40s now. So, yeah, my golf game has suffered a little bit. The injury certainly didn't help because I can't feel weight on my left foot. That's just because of the procedure I had on my ankle and the injury that preceded that. So, in my day, I was a pretty good golfer. Now I'm a little better than average, but not much.
Okay. And the other question was, did you have limits when you were discussing things with Barry on your old show?
No, because it was in a broadcast format. If I'd had him on a podcast, maybe it would have been a little bit different. But for the most part, I think people, when they hear their mayor is going to be doing a media appearance, want to know what's going on in town. They want to hear their opinion on big issues and stuff like that. I wasn't going to grill the mayor. That's not my job on FM radio. Even on talk radio, it's a little more appropriate, but not on FM. We used to talk about things that were involved or important to the community, and that was usually events and things like that were good for families. We would talk about services and community centers that are opening, all stuff that's important for a community. But no, I didn't drill down on the politics of it all because that's just not what you do on FM radio.
Okay, and next up we have Victoria. As a radio announcer, do you have any say which celebrities you interview? And if you're willing to say, has there ever been a celebrity that you had a hard time dealing with or you didn't want to interview?
Somebody I didn't want to interview? I'm sure there's a few where I didn't really care. So what happens typically with radio is they used to bring artists to radio stations and they do the rounds, you know. Yeah, we're going to take them to Z103 and then we'll take them to Kiss 92.5 and then we'll take them to Virgin Radio and then Chum FM and geez. Then they found it was much easier to bring the artist to a hotel downtown and all of the media comes to them. I get it. For practical reasons, that makes sense. There was a few of them where I thought, I really don't feel like driving downtown to interview that person. But it's kind of a responsibility of doing the gig, particularly in a format where artists tour. So there was a couple that I didn't really want to do. I'm not going to name names there. As far as difficult to deal with, Lorde, do you remember her?
Yes.
Just awful to interview. Didn't want to be there. Not at all prepped for media questions. She resented the fact that she had to do interviews and everything was a one-word answer. Just, no. Like, thanks for wasting my time. Like, get out of here. So, and maybe that's part of the reason you don't hear Lorde very often on the radio anymore.
Oh, that's terrible.
The most controversial interview I think I've ever done was with Usher. And I've told this story before. Usher straight up, like, I thought we were going to fight. He pushed me, shoved me, because I asked him a question about who he was dating. And I was told in advance, in fairness, they told me in advance, do not ask him about his personal life. and I wasn't going to. However, my interview was right after he was doing an interview with E-Talk, who was in before me, and I believe it was Ben Mulrooney at the time, and Ben asked him about it. So I thought, all right, well, if Ben asked, it's fair game. I can ask. Yeah, he didn't like it when I asked, and he fought, like, 2-hand shoved me in the chest.
That is just wild to me. I can't. I've never seen that. Oh, my gosh. And you handled it like a pro. You just took it.
I don't know. Is that how you're supposed to handle it? Just take it? Should I have punched him? I don't know. It would have been great audio if I had.
Yeah, definitely. I think you handled it very well.
You know what, though? I don't think I was in the wrong there because I was specifically asked to not play that part of the audio on the radio by someone who was traveling with him. Not because I asked the question, but because it was embarrassing for Usher, for anyone to hear that audio.
Yeah.
So it wasn't the way to handle it. I mean, obviously, I didn't press charges or anything like that. If I ever see Usher again, I'm going to remind him about it, and maybe we'll have a good laugh. But either way, at the time, I was pretty pissed off.
No doubt. Okay, next one is Luca. Hey, Scott, I've been a big fan, and I listen to your podcast daily. Even way back before 91.5, you did you dirty. Keep up the good work.
Yes, they did.
Yeah, keep up the good work. You mean a bunch to all of us. Thank you for what you do. And that's from Luca, so it's just more of a comment.
Thank you. I appreciate that a lot.
And finally, Scott, what are you smoking?
Yes, I did say I would do that. So usually every 6 weeks or so, in and around there, I go to my favorite cannabis shop is called Spirit Leaf. It's in the Sunrise Center in Kitchener. If you're in Kitchener and you're shopping for cannabis, I'll tell you that the staff there are incredibly knowledgeable. They've got a good selection of stuff that you can't get everywhere. And they always steer me in the right direction because they know what I like, and they usually put together a little package for me, and I haven't gone wrong with their recommendations so far. So what they gave me last time is I like a Figr, F-I-G-R. It comes in a blue pouch or little blue box. This is 10.35 gram pre-rolls. This one is called Chatty Cathy. I've talked about,
I love it.
I have talked in the past about Figr products because I like Jungle Fumes is a great sativa if you're looking for a sativa. This Chatty Cathy, it's a hybrid, but it's potent, 32.6%. That's great. That's not for everybody, though. Some people, if they smoke something that potent, they're going to be out of commission for the entire day. Me, that's a good chill out at night kind of joint. 0.35, I feel like, is a good amount of cannabis for one pre-roll. You get 10 of them in there for about $22. It is Figr, F-I-G-R, Chatty Cathy. The other one they gave me, and I was skeptical about this one because I'm not usually a fan of the brand Super Toast. It's a long yellow tube. It's kind of a fat tube. Hoagie's Sativa. Hoagie's Sativa. So this is good price point. It's fairly inexpensive. It was like $10. You get 2 grams. That's 2 1-gram pre-rolls. Pre-rolls are good for me. I know there's some people who prefer the loose stuff. They want to grind it. They want to put it in a bong or do whatever it is you do. I don't have the time for it. And frankly, I don't like my fingers smelling like it after I do it. So I buy the pre-rolls. I'll spend the extra for those. But this Hoagie Sativa, it's a pretty good content. It's 26% or 261 milligrams. Again, you get 2 1-gram pre-rolls. So what I did with this one was I got home from work. Oh, was I there? I think Wednesday I got home from work. And I smoked one of these, and I only did half. Maybe a little less than half, actually. I didn't need much from this one. And even though it's not as potent as I like, it gave me a really nice creative buzz. After I smoked that, number one, it was a sativa, so I was incredibly productive. I think I cleaned the entire house in about an hour. And then when I sat down and chilled, I started writing things that I wanted to do, ideas I had for the show and for the podcast and things that I've got to do. And I felt real creative after that one. And I'm not sure why the different compounds of different cannabises give you a different vibe. Some of them it's a chill, some of them it's a body buzz. Some of them really do spark creativity. And I found that the, let me get the name again. It's by Super Toast, yellow tube, Hoagie's Sativa. If you try these, I'd love to know if you get the same experience. But after I settled down and got all the sativa energy out of me, I just felt motivated and happy and like I wanted to write. So that's a real good one, too. Those are my 2 recommendations for now. But Amir over there, he's my favorite guy. Out of all the cannabis shops, I think he is my favorite. Again, it is Spirit Leaf in the Sunrise Center. That's where I go, and I recommend them completely. He gave me a whole bunch of other ones that he said, I think you're going to like this one. You will probably not like this one, but I'd like to know what you think anyway. And he helps you curate a good package. I can't go to Kitchener every day. I live in Burlington. So if I'm going to go, I'll phone him and say, I'm coming. Get some stuff together for me and give me about a couple weeks supply anyway. And so far, their recommendation has not failed me. You know what? Since we talked about cannabis, I want to mention one thing. I've got a story here that I've been sitting on for like a week that I haven't had a chance to do in the podcast. So let me just throw this out there here. A new study finds 4% of all ads in America on television are big pharma ads. That's an incredibly compelling number.
Yeah.
I see every time I watch television, I will see an ad for either Ozempic or Wegovy. Every time. Mm-hmm. There are other drugs out there. This new one, it's one of the cheesiest, laziest commercials I've ever seen for Monjaro. Monjaro. They made up the cheesiest jingle that I swear they must have done it in somebody's basement with somebody who isn't even that great a singer. It is lazy. But when you're buying advertising, you get a lot of influence over who you're buying that advertising with. And I think that's why they do it. And to be honest, I don't care. If you want to run your Wegovy and Ozempic commercials and whatever Monjaro is and all these other drugs, fine. But it's not fair that you've got something that's regulated and available by prescription only. And the message is, please go and pressure your doctor to give us these drugs. Talk to your doctor. Yeah. Ask your doctor for Ozempic. No, we shouldn't be encouraging anyone to ask their doctor for a prescription. The doctor will look at you, check your symptoms and say, I think you need this or that. You never go to the doctor and ask for penicillin. The doctors know that if you're sick, you need penicillin. That's the way it works. Going and asking your doctor specifically for these drugs, I don't think that's right. But if that's the way the government wants to go, fine. But why is it still against the regulations for cannabis companies to advertise?
Oh, I know.
This is a legal, regulated product overseen with great oversight from Health Canada. Why are they not allowed to advertise? Yet nonstop ads for big pharma. It's wrong, and that's another thing that's got to change.
Agreed. And it's so true. Hey, I've gone in to ask for Ozempic. My doctor wasn't giving me nothing.
But you know what? It's amazing how many people get it that probably shouldn't. Like if it was just up to the doctor and the doctor looked at you and checked your BMI, weighed you, talked about your lifestyle and your habits and your eating and all that sort of thing and said, you know what? I think for your situation, Ozempic is the way to go, or Wegovy is the way to go. But when you walk into the doctor's office because you'd like to lose a couple of pounds or whatever and say, hey, doctor, I was told to ask you about Ozempic. That's pressure on the doctor. You're pressuring your doctor to write you a script because it's going to be disappointment if the doctor tells you no. It's wrong.
And also the impressionable minds. Now you could just take a shot rather than go to the gym. You know, there's lots of different ways to interpret, but that is how I feel, especially now with the pressure of social media and everything looking perfect.
Yeah. Okay. Sure.
That's me.
Have a great trip, Anna.
Oh, thank you. I'll have a drink for you.
Please do. Yes. Something Greek.
Oh, okay. And I'll break a plate. Oppa!
Very good. Friends, enjoy the rest of your weekend. Thank you for checking into this episode of Scott Fox After 9. Monday, I'm right back at it. And Monday, a silent date update. I'll leave you now with the sounds of Pat James and The Whole Truth. Hey now. That was a long one.